Hello and welcome to Chargers Talk 4630. I'm Stacy, and joining me is my co-host and friend Kyle D. If this is your first time here, we're happy you joined us, and we're asking if you would be so kind to follow us by subscribing to our podcast. This way you'll be notified whenever we go live or release the latest content, and you can hear us wherever you get your podcasts. And last, please go to your browser and check out more Chargers content from some great writers along with myself and my co-host Kyle D, who operates and created stormcloud.blog. Kyle, good morning on this Tuesday. How you doing today?
Doing good, Stacy. 6-3. We're looking at a big stretch coming up, man. I couldn't be more excited for it. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Had a little bit of issues yesterday, but we back on track now.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm excited to be here, excited to talk about that Titans game because I mean, that was a fun watch, man. That was a fun watch.
With that being said, I want to take the time and say Happy Veterans Day, and we celebrate all our men and women who serve and is still active in the military for all that they do to protect us and keep us safe. We appreciate you. Kyle, the Chargers are 6-3, and for much of the season has defeated the teams they were supposed to defeat. A very different contrast from what us Charger fans are used to seeing. Sunday, they took care of the Tennessee Titans in SoFi, and the final score was 27-17. And if you saw the game, it wasn't even that close. We know that Jim Harbaugh has shown at every stop that he's had an immediate impact with regards to turning around an organization. But to be honest, upon his arrival in LA, they were $35 million over the salary cap. I believe several players had huge contracts that they could no longer afford to keep due to the state of the salary cap, which led to a huge turnover for most of this roster. He may have had a quick turnaround everywhere else he's been, but there was a lot of doubts around the league, even if the great Jim Harbaugh himself can quickly transform these Chargers into winners. What's your thoughts on, after winning just 5 games all of last season, we are sitting here now at 6-3, looking like they're on the verge of becoming a playoff contender?
It's funny you asked that, Stacy, because one of the things I wanted to talk about from this game was after that opening drive by the Titans, where we came out really sluggish, right, on offense, didn't move the ball. The Titans came, just marched down the field on us in a way that no other teams had. I think it was the first time that a team had scored in the first quarter in over
Since
4 or 5 games. Might have even been since week one. It was week one. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. And under the last probably 3 coaching regimes, I don't know if we come back from that game. We've seen that time and time again where we come out flat and we have a hard time adjusting and we lose to a team that, from Vegas, stat lines, whatever you want to look at, is we're supposed to beat. When we've gotten punched in the mouth in the past, we've had a hard time getting back up off the mat and standing a fighting chance. But what happened? Jesse Minter made the adjustments that we needed, that we've been screaming for in the similar type of situations, made amazing adjustments. We were, for once, the team that out-adjusted the other team, made the corrections necessary, and they didn't score a touchdown again until garbage time at the end of the game and held them to a total of 3 points between those two. That, to me, speaks volumes about this team and was really impressive. Anything in particular that stood out to you Sunday?
No, I mean, I'm following your lead. They did. I remember the game against the Arizona Cardinals. They did come out sluggish, and there was like no answer. I had that moment because they looked like that in the first quarter against the Tennessee Titans. And mind you, the Tennessee Titans was number 1 in defense all season. So they came and they stifled us the first couple of drives. But on the defensive side, they were missing tackles and things, and it looked sloppy. So I'm like, oh, wow, come on, man. This is a Jim Harbaugh team that I saw look like this against Arizona. And I said, that probably will never happen. You'll never see that happen again. It was happening, but they came out of that funk after a while and started establishing who was the better team.
Certainly. And they did still miss tackles throughout the game. There's still a little bit of meat on the bone for this team to improve, for sure. But as far as a play calling standpoint, scheme standpoint, Jesse Minter has these guys cooking,
absolutely,
man. It's beautiful to see.
It is. So scared to lose this guy at the end of the year, man. But as long as they keep getting better, the chances are there's some teams that's going to be firing some head coaches. And I'm afraid that we're going to lose them, so we better enjoy them while we got them.
A part of me wants to push back on that a little bit because we didn't hear any talk about Jesse Minter being in consideration for the Michigan head coaching job, right? He was always just assumed to be following Jim to the NFL. So there's a part of me that wonders because, a college head coaching gig, man, you are royalty on that campus. You are making millions. You are absolute royalty. It gets laid out for you, and you have great job security for the most part. So a part of me wonders, Stacey, if he likes where he's at with Jim right now and is happy being a coordinator, maybe wants to go out and win at this level before he makes that move to a head coaching spot. If anything, I would definitely see him being the Ben Johnson type where it has to be the right team and situation because he knows he's got the confidence to know he's going to be a hot commodity for some time. So hopefully the teams that do lose their head coaches are all dumpster fires, man. but if they're not, I hope that he does stick around. And I think there's reason to be optimistic that he might want to at least put in another year or two and try to make a push for that Super Bowl.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Yes, I hope you're right because I know a lot of these guys that are offense coordinators and defense coordinators, they all wanted one day be head coaches, and you don't know when your opportunity going to come. And you're right. I hope that he does stay. I hope he made a commitment to Jim and these Chargers for at least 2 years. I remember in 2006 when the Chargers went 14-2. And Wade Phillips, that was 1 year we had number one defense, and they snatched him up quick. I think Dallas took him. We lost our offense coordinators. And that's what happens when you're a successful team. Everyone's going to come for your coordinators and say, can you bring that program over here? But let's just hope that Jesse's with us for another year. But look, Justin Herbert was sufficient going 14-18 for 164 yards. He threw for 1 touchdown. He ran for another. And the most impressive and important stat of them all is his 0 interceptions. He's only thrown just 1 interception all season, and that was all the way back in week 2 against the Carolina Panthers. So, Kyle, how impressed are you with Justin Herbert, who's in his 5th season with his 4th offensive coordinator and 3rd head coach?
And just looking better and better each week, right? Incredibly impressed, Stacey. We're starting to see those, and we've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, but we are seeing him get a little bit more involved in the run game. We didn't see too many designed run plays except for an incredible 4th down call, which, man, you got to have cojones of steel to call that play. QB power on 4th and a big one. Yeah. That's intense, man. But his explosion, his acceleration, I'm loving it. That's what's really impressing me the most is that he's getting out and scrambling a lot more, protecting the football through the air, but also not fumbling it or anything like that. We almost had one, but that got called back. Thank goodness. But I couldn't be more impressed, Stacey. He's playing at an MVP level. He's not going to get it unless we see the actual counting stats go up throughout the rest of the year, but he's definitely putting the whole league on notice. Everybody is noticing what's happening. Pundits are going crazy over it. So you got to tip your cap to the guy.
Oh, I love it, man. He put his signature on it by breaking the ankles of Murray. Kenneth Murray. I absolutely loved it. When we see Kenneth Murray do that with us for a couple of years, he was with us. So it was nice. I mean, he was an open field. He put a little move on him like a LT move and left him. I was like, wow, Justin is a beast for real.
Did you hear Mac? Did you hear Mac subtly make a joke on that? I about cried, man.
Listen, people are saying, Justin is starting to get comfortable and everything now. That all may be true, but I think a lot of these plays, these design run plays, as you were saying, that's in the playbook for Justin Herbert now, we might have seen those a lot earlier. But remember, coming into the season, he was battling plantar fasciitis and he had the high ankle sprain. So he was very limited to what he could do. He was just stuck in the pocket. If no one could get open, he was taking those sacks. Now you're seeing him move off the spot and taking off and design runs. And for a big guy, he's pretty fast. He's shown his athleticism, his ability to make people miss in open space. So we've seen it over the first couple of seasons. So we're not other people that wasn't paying attention. They were surprised. We weren't surprised at all.
No, well, just that I've seen pushback on him not being used as a runner as much because we want to try to keep him healthy. And I don't know about you, Stacey, but I feel so much more comfortable with Herbert moving forward from a health standpoint moving forward, rolling out, than just standing like a statue in the pocket. Not that he ever stands like a statue, but when you are in the pocket, there's so much more opportunity for somebody to roll up on you from behind, for a big offensive lineman to get thrown into your legs. That's what worries me more than when Herbert is on the move and has a little bit more control. You know what I mean? I actually like it a lot to see that.
Yeah. But I think that played a part. Like when you're dealing with multiple lower extremity injuries, he couldn't. You remember every time he took a sack, he was very slow getting up and limping off the sidelines constantly. Yeah. So he was battling a lot of those injuries, and now he looks healthy. You're seeing him on full display now, his skill set. The Chargers did a fantastic job of converting their opportunities into points Sunday. Quentin Johnston has silenced his critics after scoring his 5th touchdown of the season. So let's give some love also to Gus Edwards. After early struggles in the first month of the season, he appeared to be injured. He was placed on IR, but since he's been back, Kyle, he's looked like a different, healthier, and more explosive running back. This is good news for the Chargers, and he can also take a little pressure off J.K. Dobbins. But, when you seen him, J.K. would get 5 yards here, gash another 6 yards here. And then Gus Edwards would come in and just would get stoned constantly. And we were like, wow, man, do he not have it anymore? Maybe they need to start using Vidal a little bit more. But he looked like a total different running back now. I mean, he was running with power. He was running with speed. And that's the Gus Edwards that I thought we would see early in the season.
Yeah, we saw a lot more guys hanging off his hips, didn't we? Like a lot, he's just running through a lot more guys, dragging some tacklers. It was really impressive. And you saw it right away. From his first opportunity, he looked like a different running back.
Yeah.
It's a little strange to me that Vidal still is not being activated, because I feel like the 3 of them are such a unique grouping where they all bring something to the table. There's still things that Vidal can provide to this offense, even when Gus and JK are active. So I was a little bummed to not see him, but hey, it's a positive to have Gus out there. He's the battering ram that's gonna, JK was quiet this week. That's going to happen when you have 2 effective running backs. They're not always going to go off each and every week, but you see Gus continue to beat up those linebackers and defensive linemen, and all of a sudden they're going to be on their heels a little bit. They're going to be tired. They're going to not want the contact, and JK will come in and rip one off occasionally. And that's what are going to boost JK's numbers. When you look at him and he only has a 3-yard per carry average, it's just because he didn't rip off one of those big ones, but it is going to happen. It will come.
And with Vidal, I know it's a little disappointment because you see the explosive playmaking ability he have, and we want to see that more. But that's the kind of stuff that happens when you got a lot of depth, right, Kyle? They're loaded with depth all over right now. So, you can't, it's hard distributing the ball to everyone. But I'm sure before the season is over, we'll see them back out there again. Hopefully it's not because the 2 guys in front are injured. But let's talk about this defense for a minute. In Sunday's game, we were talking about earlier how they got off to a shaky start, missing a lot of tackles. But after halftime, we've seen them get back into that physical style we've seen all season, finishing with 7 sacks. Bud Dupree was supplying pressure all game, and Daiyan Henley continues to look like a Pro Bowler. Joey Bosa looks much healthier, made his presence felt, and all that happened without Khalil Mack. Kyle, this defense for the most part this season has been, should I dare say the word, dominant.
Absolutely. And you got to give the credit, even though we're talking about it, and we are, it's there's no hiding it from anybody. But what Jesse Minter has done with this group is incredible, because they didn't go out and they didn't prioritize their draft capital towards defense. Their defensive picks in the draft were mostly day 3 guys. We did pick up Junior Colson, but he's been mostly rotational. And wasn't available this week. And their free agent pickups were all cast-offs, man. They were all prove-it deals or real buy low guys, because we didn't have the cap, like you were mentioning before. So for Jesse Minter to turn this defense from what it was last year into what it is now, with the same core foundational pieces, with just some real frugal bargain spending by Joe Ortiz, it speaks so much to how great Joe is working with Jim and Jesse,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everyone's working together in that staff in a way that we didn't really see with Telesco. And if it was happening, it just wasn't being executed right. They weren't accomplishing what they were seeking out to do. But these guys are winners and they're
Yes.
working very, very well together. So it's
Yes.
great to see. It makes you excited for what's going to happen next year when we have more
Oh,
capital
yes.
to spend,
Absolutely.
you know?
So, Kyle, well, look, with 8 games left, right? If the Chargers just could go 4-4 at worst, 10-7 should be good enough to get one of those wild card spots. How do you see? Because we got a tough stretch coming up these next few games, and I think the next couple, with Cincinnati and Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion, might define this season with regards to whether you're a playoff team or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we talked about it last week, but right now it's not conventional, but I'd be looking at my guys and saying, "Hey, we have a simulation right now of what a playoff gauntlet will look like. We have 4 playoff teams back to back to back to back. Let's go out 1 week at a time and take these guys down. And at the end of that 4 weeks, we're gonna know exactly where we stand. We're gonna know
You're
where
right.
we are. If Stacey, if it, I mean, I'm not saying that it carries over directly, but if we do get hot and if we did go on a roll here, what would that say about this team? The possibilities, even if we just went 3-1, right, but kept it close each week, we will have proven to be not just a playoff team, but a contending team. So, because each and every one of these teams we're facing has a very good shot at making the Super Bowl. They're the top competitors in both conferences. So you've got to embrace that challenge for what it is and say, hey, here's our chance to get tested. I'm not thinking about the back 4 yet. I'm thinking about the front 4. And if we can walk away 3-1, dang, I'm excited about our possibilities. Man.
Yes.
If it doesn't work out that great and we get humbled, it's okay, because that's where we are at with this team. We are in this rebuilding, reloading, resetting year. But if we come out and surprise some people and punch a couple teams in the throat, man, will that say a lot about the direction we're going. So that's where I'm focused right now, man.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with people in the chat that, people, those 3 phrases you threw out there, some people were saying they're rebuilding, some people saying retooling, some people being reset. I like the reset better. And the reason why I say that, because to me, when you're rebuilding, you're tearing the whole thing down. You're tearing the whole thing down to the bottom and then building it back up. I push back on people that say rebuilding, because when you have a Derwin James and when you have a Khalil Mack and a Joey Bosa, and you bring it in, even though Poona Ford and Tia Tart, like these guys, like you were saying, was on prove it deals. We got them at very cheap because they had an injury history, but when they were healthy, they were playing at a high level. So we took a gamble on these guys. At worst, if the injuries continue, we didn't pay much, and we're kind of starting over anyway. But what if they could stay healthy? The upside, if they could stay healthy and those guys go back to be who they were, like J.K. Dobbins was a beast. He would never be with us if it wasn't for those injuries. So I like resetting. This is pretty much, other than the run stuffers that we brought in up front, this is really the same defense as last year. This is an indictment on Brandon Staley for not knowing what the hell he was doing. You know what I mean? So I like resetting, and I'm looking at it 2 ways. Playing the Bengals. I know they're 4-6. I'm not going to be fooled by this record. We know what Joe Burrow is, and we know they can light up the scoreboard. So, man, I'm saying I'm not jumping ahead to the Baltimore Ravens or the other 2 games against the playoff teams down the road. I'm saying just this game coming Sunday. This is a statement game. If you could pull this one off, because listen, I seen the game against the Baltimore Ravens last week.
You can't judge these teams by their record. Right. I think there's a lot of teams right now that have kind of faux records at this point in the season. I'm going to throw out there, and if it comes back, if somebody wants to clip this, send it to us when after the Chiefs game, they can. Okay. But Chiefs are a prime example, man. I don't see them as a 9-0 team. They look very, very vulnerable right now. They are not as dominant as their record suggests. the Bengals can always turn it on, even at 4-6, even if they're not a playoff team this year. That's going to be bookended by years where they are continually making the playoffs because they have a great offense. They have great coach. They're set. Even the Ravens are funky, right? We've talked about that. They've lost to two teams that we've beaten. So it's the parity across the league this year is really incredible. That's what should give us hope for, hey, we make it into the playoffs. Who knows what's going to happen, man? Because the Chiefs are not as dominant as they've been the last 3 or 4 years, despite their record. And a lot of these teams have holes in their roster as well. What's going on with the Ravens defense? I don't know, but there's room for us.
Yeah, you just can't. You play a team like the Chiefs. You can't turn the ball over. You got to play sound fundamental football because they don't make many mistakes at all. They could be sluggish on offense, but those guys always find a way to win. So you don't want to make any mistakes. And if they make one, you want to make them pay for it because you don't know how many opportunities that you could take advantage of against them. They're a very well-coached team as well. But so far this season, the Chargers have held their opponents to 20 points or less. That's the first time that's happened since 2013. They've allowed only 13.1 points per game, and that's currently the best in the NFL. They have a really good defense, in fact, one of the best in the league. But Cincinnati and Joe Burrow is coming to SoFi, and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase over the last 2 weeks have been playing as if they have a Madden cheat code because they put up 75 points against the Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a huge game and can also be a statement game for Jesse Minter and his Chargers defense. They're going against a team that could score a lot and score very fast. So we're going to close this segment out, Kyle, with a 3-part question for you.
All right.
What do you make of this weekend's matchup? Who do you think wins and why?
So, Stacey, I'm fired up for this matchup because Jamar Chase, like you said, has been on a tear. And after all of our talk about we don't need a wide receiver one, or at least, I know a lot of our fans in the comments have been talking about it, but I've been saying, hey, it's not the time. But after watching what he and Joe have been doing, it leaves you wanting a little bit because that has been incredibly impressive. Yeah. But I'm excited to see him matched up with Cam Hart. Cam Hart's been pretty darn dominant for a rookie so far. And even though we're not like a true man-up defense, we're going to be running zones. He's going to be finding holes in our zones. We're not going to win every rep. I'm really excited to see this pass rush get to Joe Burrow, slow things or speed things up for him, make him have less time to get to Chase, for him to get to those gaps. And I'm really excited for what that opportunity brings. I think we're going to have success in the running game again, a little bit more than last week even. And it's just going to be a great showdown, but I think these Chargers are ready for it. I'm very excited.
I am too, man. We have an identity now, and we are a team that run the ball down your throat. Even when we're going to run it, we're still going to run it. We're a team that beats you up and punch you in the face. We're very physical. That's the kind of game I would like to see against Cincinnati, because if we get them to play our style of football, I like our chances to win. I don't want a shootout. It could very well be an old classic shootout. That's playing more into their style, what they like to do. So I want this defense to continue to play great. I want Jesse Minter to still get his flowers. So if I can have my way, I want the Chargers defense to play elite. And I know that you can't just completely shut down an offense like that. Jamar Chase is one of the best in the league. But if we could slow them down and keep them to maybe 20 points, I like our chances of winning this game.
Well, that's a great point, Stacey. It's the game within the game, right? We have Justin Herbert. We know that Justin can compete in shootouts. It'd only be the second time all season he's gone for over 300 yards, but can he do it? He absolutely can. But the game within the game is like you're saying, can we get them to play down to our game, to our speed, where we slow things down, make it more of a time of possession game, dominant running game, and it's a defensive slugfest? Or is it going to be two quarterbacks opening it up through the air and, having a slugfest that way? I like that mentality and that mindset. Even though I would love to see Herbert gunslinging, it definitely would be encouraging if by the half it's definitely a defensively led game. I think if we're in that kind of scenario, we're going to be thinking, yeah, we got these guys right where we want them.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
playing our game, and they're going to
Yes.
lose when they're
Yes.
playing our game.
Yeah, I'll take the win either way. Either way it comes. If it's a shootout, I prefer not a shootout. But if it's a shootout, I'll take it. And if it's we controlling the time of possession and we're winning the trenches and we're running the ball, I'll take it that way too. I'm gonna be as realistic as I possibly can. This is a big game this weekend. You hear everyone when we watch the ESPN and all the other networks on TV, they give Josh Allen the love. They give Aaron Rodgers love. They give Pat Mahomes the love. They even giving Russell Wilson a lot of love now, the way he's playing with Pittsburgh. And we want Justin Herbert to get those same kind of flowers because we know in his own right, he's just as good as any of those guys. If it's a loss for us, will it be the end of our season? No, we'll be 6-4. But then what would the pundits say? What would the media world say? The Chargers are heading in the right direction. Jim Harbaugh got them going the way he wants, but they're not quite ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
If they win, the frontline story on every news network and Justin Herbert is this is a team you don't want to see in the playoffs. And, so we like that. And I want that. So this is a big game for me as a diehard fan. And this is a chance for this defense and Jesse Minter, because a lot of people been saying, the schedule was soft. All right, well, you play the Bengals. We saw what they did the last 2 weeks, scoring 75 points. We don't want to hear anything if Jesse Minter put together a scheme and this team go out there and they dominate in the trenches and they get their sacks like they've been on a tear. We're getting sacks lately. And J.K. Dobbins and the emergence of Gus Edwards, we control the time possession. I'll love it, and I'll be looking for some scalpers that's willing to sell me some tickets for a playoff game.
Absolutely. If we hold them to less than 20 points again, Stacey, absolutely. You're absolutely right. That's going to be the talk. And can they do it with Jamar Chase still having a great game? I think last week Calvin Ridley had 2 touchdowns. Yeah, they can, right? Like he can still blow up and we can still have a dominant defensive day. Last thing I want to say before we take off, Stacey.
Okay.
It has to do with our trade deadline talk.
Mm-hmm.
There's a player that I really think we need to give some props to.
Okay.
I was thinking this early in the game, watching it, being really impressed with this player. And then something happened that was less impressive that actually made me feel like it was more important to say because it shined on this issue even more. But Will Dissly has really risen to this challenge that's been at the Chargers' feet because they didn't bring in a true number 1 tight end. They were hoping Hayden Hurst could be that chain mover, that he would bounce back. He's one of the prove it deals that we haven't seen returns on yet. Maybe that changes as he reacclimates after his injury. But Dissly, man, early on in the game, he was getting targeted pretty heavily and he was being very reliable. And he has been for the most part this season in a role that we did not bring him in for. He was here to dominate that C gap and be that run blocker. And all of a sudden, my man's running routes and catching passes. And I don't know if he was the most targeted, but he caught the most passes on Sunday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not what he's here to do. It would have been great to see him. What would have really just cemented that, Stacey, is if those fingertips had caught that football in the end zone. That pass was beautiful. But those misses are also giving us previews of what the future holds when we do bring in that number 1 tight end that can be that reliable pass catcher for Justin. And guess what, man? That's nothing against Will. All Will does is slide back into that blocking role again. And all of those little releases that he does and has been doing pretty well for us with, they're still going to be there. They're just not going to be highlighted as the number 1 option most of the time. He's going to be there as a safety net.
I would like to see more Stone Smart. We've seen Stone Smart catch some balls. The limited times he got in, he looked like an athlete. He looked like a tight end. He got some average speed, and he looked like he's more of a pass catching tight end. So I don't know why he's not getting in the lineup, but I would rather see Stone Smart on those plays than to see Will Dissly. I'd rather see Will Dissly back there blocking. And can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When is DJ Chark going to join us?
He played last week.
Yeah, no,
He
he
just didn't
had
do
one.
anything.
He came in for one play. It's like I would really love to know why, because it was built up a lot that this guy was going to be key for us on offense. So I don't understand the disappearing act right now. I know he was injured and everything, but now he was healthy and he was on the active roster. He came in for one play and that was it. I don't know. I don't get it.
It was like a game of Where's Waldo. It was like he was active, so you knew he was supposed to come on the field at some point. Then you saw him, you're like, there he is. It's Chark. It's a sighting, and then he was gone the rest of the game. I have no idea. Hopefully it's a ramp up thing.
I mean, shit. What is it? Week 10, week 11? Like, how much ramping up do you got to do? Like, the season is going by us so fast right now.
Yeah. I don't know what to think of it either, Stacey. I'm just hoping that they're just being cautious with his injury and that, he'll be back in no time to taking significant reps. But if that might be another one that's a dud by the end of the year. Hopefully not, but
can't hit on everyone. I mean, I'll say for Joe Ortiz, he hit on a majority of the moves he made. And, you're not going to hit on everyone, but he's 100 times better than Tom Telesco was. That's for sure. We have a lot of depth on this team.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to close up with?
No, that's it, Stacey. We'll just get everyone excited for the Bengals on Thursday morning or Friday morning. And until then, everyone have a great week and stay safe.
Yes. Well, it's time to say thank you for joining us. Please don't forget to log on to stormcloud.blog if you're looking for more Chargers content. We'll be back later in the week to discuss the big showdown with Joe Burrow and Cincinnati Bengals. If you haven't subscribed yet, it would be so appreciated if you can do that before you leave this podcast. And as always, be good, be safe, be well, be kind to each other. Enjoy the rest of your week and bolt up.